This episode is brought to you by Hasa. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the Bottom Feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this episode, I'll be joined by Sean McDermott of H2 Flow Controls. We're going to talk about the new Nautis VS pump that they've developed. And this is a really unique pump in the industry, and there's really nothing like this product out there today. And as I'm talking here, if you wanted to see this pump and this product and all the specs, just go to h2flow.net. Again, that's h2flow.net, and they'll have the actual product on their homepage, and you can see this particular pump that we're talking about in detail. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support from me. I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tool. So I'm joined today by Sean McDermott. He's the Executive Vice President of H2 Flow Controls. How are you doing today, Sean?
Great, David. Thanks for having me.
So the reason I brought you on is you have a new product which is really exciting for the industry, and I think it incorporates a lot of what H2 Flow stands for.
Mm-hmm.
The FlowViz flow meter, if people aren't familiar with the company, that's one of their big products. And it's I'm sure I'm pronouncing this correctly. I'm just reading it off how it's spelled. It's the Nautis VSF pump.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so let's jump right in and let's talk about this new variable speed pump and some of the unique features. And we'll start with the first question is, why would you want to bring a VS pump to the market in the pool industry? What is the reason behind bringing this in just to begin with?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's quite a crowded space to decide to launch a product into, especially for, a company of our size competing with the offshore pumps that are coming into the market, and as well as the established manufacturers. This is something we thought long and hard about, and what inspired it. For years we've been doing EcoFlow VFDs on large commercial pools, and quite often with those we set up a constant flow feature with either our magnetic flow meter or FlowViz, our analog flow meter. And we thought, this is what we feel is missing in the industry. There are some pumps that can run based on a theoretical flow rate, but no pump that isn't using automation was able to run at a constant flow. And speed, we felt, was sort of irrelevant. So that's what we thought. We could do something unique. Essentially, we saw an opportunity. We're not out to, we don't expect to take the market share of all the big pumps in the market, but we see an opportunity for homeowners and pool operators that want to have some extra features in their pump, but not have to go all the way to automation.
And the second question to that, there's a feature in there, and the listeners that aren't very technical, they may not know a lot about VS pumps and setting the RPMs or the percentage of the speed and the difficulty. The pool guys know this, and pool gals know the difficulty of getting this thing modulated out there, because it's really tough to maximize the energy savings with the flow. And so there's something called adaptive flow that you have in this pump. What is that exactly?
Sure. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking the guesswork out of setting up the pump for the particular pool. Adaptive flow, it does two things. First off, it lets you enter the information about your pool, number of gallons, that sort of thing, and then select an operation mode, either constant flow or what we call turnover mode. And in either of those modes, we're basing the speed of the pump on the required flow rate. So we are essentially not just optimizing energy savings, but we're optimizing the entire efficiency of the pool, right? There's an analogy I like to use. You can, with a variable speed pump, you can have it run really fast and it's very efficient at operating the pool. Or you can run it very slow and it's very electrically efficient, but you're going to spend a lot of money fixing the problems that develops in the pool. It's kind of like if there's a fly on your window and you use a hammer to kill it, it's very effective, but it's not very efficient. Whereas using a fly swatter is both effective and efficient. So that's what we're going for. We want to be effective and efficient. And that adaptive flow feature, again, as the system changes, as the pump becomes clogged up, as it could be in-floor cleaning systems, it could be filtration systems getting dirty, it could be you're turning on and off water features. The pump's going to adapt the speed to maintain that flow rate, ensuring that everything is operating as it should.
So what is that? Why is that different than the, measuring the actual flow rate versus just setting the pump at 1 RPM, a certain RPM and walking away? Because there's like some rule of thumbs that we use in the industry, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but what would be the main difference between
Sure.
those?
So essentially what we're doing is we're working off of a known value. Right. You can take a variable speed pump and put a flow meter on your pool and adjust the speed so that you have the correct amount of flow, whether it be based on turnover rate or I need this amount of flow for my heat pump or my heater, whatever it might be. You can do that. But as the system changes, your flow rate's going to go down. So then you're not as efficient and effective as you could possibly be. So that's the main difference. You can take a pump curve and calculate your total feet of head and your plumbing and get a pretty good guess on where to set the speed based on that. In our experience, after people put flow meters on pools and they call us up and they tell us our flow meter's wrong because the flow doesn't equal what they think it should equal because they did all the calculations and everything. Well, the flow meter, it's a NSF 50 level 1 flow meter. It's quite accurate unless it's completely broken, which is highly uncommon. The flow meter's right and your calculations are wrong. So that's what we're doing. We're taking a known value, a measured value, and operating the speed of the pump based on that. It's kind of like a car, right? If you're driving down the street and you know that at 800 RPMs or 1,000 RPMs, you should be going 35 miles an hour in third gear. Well, that doesn't take into account wind or the tire pressure in your car. It's a guess. So we taking the guesswork out using a known value.
I don't think there's many listeners that drive stick shift anymore, Sean.
Well, I know. Maybe they have the manual gear change in their automatic transmission.
Right.
Now you're dating me, David.
Yes. There's other things that this does too, like automatically adjust for dirty filters and changing conditions. How does that work in the real world?
Sure. So, filters don't become clogged instantly. It happens over time. So we're just constantly, again, monitoring that flow rate, the real-time flow rate, providing feedback to our motor controller box, and then adjusting the speed as that occurs. So the nice thing about that is, let's use a commercial pool, for example, because in a commercial pool, there's a code that you have to have a certain turnover rate, 6 hours, for example. If you're a small commercial pool and you're using our Nautis 3.45 horsepower pump, you can say, I need to turn this pool. I have 24,000 gallons. I need to turn the pool over every 6 hours. We do that math for you, and that pool is always going to operate at that. We have some additional things where you can have periods of increased flow and stuff like that, but that assures that it's always getting the right amount of circulation. So if a health inspector comes, it's going to be right. But for the homeowner, again, it's taking another thing off their plate that they have to think about, or that they should have to think about. A lot of people don't think about it. They develop problems in their pool and they wonder why, but they could have just used this simple feature to run at a constant speed a constant flow rate, and have that perfectly optimized pool.
And the Pool Guy Podcast Show has teamed up with UPA to bring you affordable, reliable liability insurance starting at just $64 a month. Get up to $2 million in coverage, and the members of my coaching group get an even lower rate. Protect your business and your peace of mind. Sign up with UPA today by clicking the link in the podcast description. So how does having the optimized flow rate really improve the water quality and the efficiency of the pool, the chemicals usage and things like that?
Sure. Obviously, 24-hour circulation, the pool industry has talked about that quite a bit. Always circulating the water, moving water develops fewer problems than stagnant water. So first off, just the moving water by itself is going to reduce the number of problems that develop in the pool. But we're also constantly dispersing the chemicals evenly in the pool with that, constantly making the flow available for adding chemicals. If the pool's off, if you have automated chemical feeds, or if you have a salt chlorine generator, it's not going to work when the pool's off. So if you need chlorine, your system can't add it. So again, 24-hour circulation, the right amount of flow all the time, just ensuring that you're not going to develop problems. For example, let's say your pool, there's a large amount of dust or cottonwood or whatever it might be that happens in the spring, and your filter's clogging up faster than it normally would. Rather than dropping down to a flow rate that would develop problems, we're going to ramp up that speed so that we don't develop those problems.
It makes sense. And let's talk about some of the features of the pump. So what was specifically incorporated in there for the pool professional to make it easier for us? You kind of touched on that a little bit right there when the filter starts to get clogged up or there's different issues. And that, of course, is going to solve some problems with poor circulation.
Mm-hmm.
But you can touch on more right there.
Sure. And I think we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but we do have the BlueSync app. That's your interface with the pump. So that can provide both the homeowner and the pool operator or the pool professional with data about what's going on with the pool pump and the circulation. So a couple of things that we do, if you're in constant flow or turnover mode, we allow you to set a maximum speed, or essentially set a dirty filter warning. So within the app, you press a button, it reads the current RPM of the filter. When that RPM goes 20% higher than that, and if it stays there for 24 hours, because again, conditions change, we don't want to alert you right away. But once it stays there for 24 hours, we're going to tell whoever's looking at the app that they have a clogged filter and they need to clean it. It's also going to limit the speed of the motor at that as well, so that we're not overpressurizing systems that may be neglected for some reason. So those are two things that we're doing for the pool professional. We're allowing them to tweak the flow rates as well. For example, we have something called a boost mode. So this is for homeowners and for pool professionals. The boost mode is a ridiculously simple way to say, okay, we want to operate the pump at this turnover rate, for example. But we know that we're going to have a lot of sun or a lot of rain or a lot of bathers, a high bather load. So during this time, we want it to operate at a higher speed or a higher flow rate. So if you program the boost mode, it's going to come on every day at the time you set it and operate for the number of hours that you set it at a 50% higher flow rate. Okay. So if you're operating at 30 gallons per minute nominally, it's going to operate at 45 gallons per minute during that time frame that you specify. So that's something that we're doing. Heater control, another thing that plagues gas heaters and will help heat pumps. Heater control, I'm working on the hardware for that right now. I imagine that will be done in a couple of weeks. And what we're doing with that is any heater that can be controlled by a 2-wire fireman switch, essentially, we're going to monitor the temperature of the pool and be able to turn the heater on and off through the app. Big deal, right? Automation systems do that. Well, what we're going to do, because we can monitor the flow, is allow the user or the pool professional to set the flow rate while the heater's on. So if it's a gas heater, if you don't want to operate most gas heaters below 45 gallons per minute because they overheat and they damage themselves. So you'll be able to set that. We defaulted at 55 gallons per minute, but it is user changeable, because if you're using a heat pump, for example, those like much lower flow rates to be more energy efficient. So we're going to allow you to do that. So anytime that the heater is turned on by our system, the pump will adjust the speed while it's on. So we're not overheating gas heaters, and we're not under circulating heat pumps. Again, all up that total system optimization for efficiency. So those are a number of things that we've done. One additional feature that we just incorporated is for in-floor cleaning systems. So we have a scheduler in the app that allows you to synchronize the flow of the pump with your in-floor cleaning system, ensuring that it's always going to operate exactly at the flow rate that it should operate at.
Interesting. And I guess we should also say that there's a lot of homeowners and pool pros that would be interested in putting in a standalone variable speed pump that
Mhm.
has more features than just what's standard out there. And this is what you're providing for them,
Mhm.
beyond like upselling a customer full automation for their pool, which sometimes is not optimal in situations. Customers don't want to spend $5,000 upgrade their system, or 6,000 in some cases, even more. Where
Mhm.
you can get this pump and you can control the flow, and the pool pro can monitor it from the app as well. And now you have this tie-in with the heater, which is kind of like a partial automation, I would say, right?
Yeah, it's mild automation, right? So we're giving you a little more than nothing at what you would generally invest in a high quality variable speed pump. For those millions of pools out there that have existing pumps, they need to replace their pump. This is just you're getting a little bit more. And not just, automation is great if you want to be able to control every single thing, turn your water features on and off. We have some automation partners in the industry that are doing really amazing things with our FlowViz digital sensor. We don't want to compete with them. We're trying to fit into this niche of a variable speed pump with a little more, and that that those items that we're giving you that are more are super valuable. It's not just a relay system that's turning lights on and off. It's something that's going to really optimize the pool.
And you did already touch on the Blue Sync system, but basically that's the app that's going to run the pump.
Yep. Yeah. So we developed an app. Its initial use will be to monitor and program the pump. As we move along with our new product launches, as well as integrating older products into that system, it'll be sort of the central data center for all of our products. Any H2 Flow product that will communicate. The idea is we're going to develop sensors and enhancing products for pools that can be integrated into large automation systems, or if the homeowner wants, they can use them as sort of an Internet of Things, an IoT product that integrates with the BlueSync app.
Yeah, it makes sense to have an app that is expandable in the future, but
Mm-hmm.
sufficient for the purpose right now, what you're going to use it for, which is controlling the pump, programming it. And let's just talk about the fact that this is American innovation here. So
Yep.
go ahead and let's go from that point.
Sure. Yeah. H2 Flow, we're an American company. We pride ourselves on American manufacturing. We manufacture everything here in Sylvania, Ohio. And, we, of course, use globally sourced components because it's difficult and kind of silly not to these days. But the pump itself is made in the U.S. We are hand assembling everything here in Sylvania. It was developed. All the research and development was done here as well. So, we just feel that's important, especially for our U.S. customers. This is also available in Europe. So we do have European customers, but being able to do that here in the U.S. allows us to rapidly prototype, rapidly develop, and then also rapidly support the product. I don't, everybody here in the company is intimately familiar with what we've done in developing this product. So it's a really neat thing. We think it's very valuable.
Yeah, and I would say that you've been making products, of course, in the industry for a long time.
Mhm.
The FlowViz flow meter is one that a lot of pool pros are familiar with. So let's just talk about a new product being launched here. What went into testing and making sure that this is ready to go? And the pool guys and gals aren't going to be beta testers out there, basically.
Sure. Yeah. So what we did is we didn't develop a pump. The pump itself is manufactured by Spec USA. So they're in Jacksonville, Florida, another American company. What we did initially, and I'll give you the long story, but it's not that long. We developed a small, what we call a signal converter for our FlowViz digital sensor. We had a lot of demand from people saying to us, look, I have an automation system. I don't need the screen that's on FlowViz digital because my automation system is going to tell me what the flow is. So can I buy it without the screen? Well, the issue was the screen is the computer in FlowViz digital. So we couldn't just take the screen out. So we developed a another product that's like a sister product to FlowViz Digital. That's just a box. It just takes the signal from the FlowViz Digital sensor and converts it to 4 to 20 milliamps. And I said, what if we took that and put Modbus in it and made it control a variable speed pump like we do with EcoFlow with our VFDs? And so that kind of sparked the idea. From there, we started looking for suitable pumps to do that with, a partner company that we could work with. We looked at a number of inexpensive pumps, and we looked at a number of very expensive pumps. We looked at trying to introduce a residential variable speed pump that had the VFD mounted separately, and that turned out to be very expensive. So eventually we landed on Spec. They had a high quality pump. They're able to provide parts support for us. And so that was the first thing. And then from there, we just, we have a test rig here. We have a number of test pools across the country. We knew the pump was solid. We didn't need to test the pump by itself. It was just mainly getting everything working together and correctly while co-developing the app. Luckily, we've got some awesome people that work with us, our rep groups and a lot of industry partners that were constantly feeding us ideas for features to add to it. The floor in-floor cleaning, for example, that was one of our West Coast or our Western US reps said, oh, you got to have an in-floor cleaning feature. So we added that. So that's kind of how it all developed over time.
Yeah, and I was going to say, does the inlet and outlet match up with any existing pumps? I was wondering.
It does. And I've yet to memorize every one of them, but I do know so we do have a riser as well. So it's got, you've got the normal base and we have a riser. So I know we're good with anything that matches the inlet of a Hayward super pump. So inlet outlet on a Hayward super pump without the riser. And then with the riser, Whisper Flow and Teleflow. On those, you're going to have to replumb the outlet side, but the inlet lines up. The outlet's usually a little easier to replumb, and it's just a height difference. It's not offset or anything like that.
Okay.
But anything that matches up to a super pump or a Whisper Flow will match up to that.
Which is probably about 80% of the industry out there.
Yeah. That was another big factor for us in choosing the Spec pump because it off the shelf it lined up with that. So
yeah, that's great for the pool pros out there that want to install one because we really hate replumbing the inlets.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's funny. We just went through that with Paul, our owner. He put a Nautis on his pump as part of the R&D process, and he said, "Man, I don't want to replumb this inlet because it was tight, and it would have been a major project." So luckily, it lined right up. He didn't have to do anything on the inlet side.
That's awesome. Well, let's wrap this up with this final one here. And if you're building and designing a pool, and let's say you're on a budget, which is kind of like everyone nowadays with the way the economy is, and the builder's trying to push automation on you, but and you're a builder yourself, let's say, and you're trying to get your customer the best system, but you know that there's a lot of budget customers. Not everyone's going to get a full automation. That's a known
Right.
factor. Not everyone's going to have all the bells and whistles. So, as a builder, as a homeowner, as someone getting a pool put in or remodeling a pool, which is very common too,
Hmm.
the features they're looking for would probably fit right into this particular Nautis VSF pump, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Again, yes, if you're building a simpler pool where you don't need automation to operate a lot of water features or complex systems, chemical control systems and things like that, this is going to, again, for not much more money and or in some cases less money than just a variable speed pump, allow you to have a very energy efficient and operationally efficient pool. So it's kind of in that aspect, it's kind of a no-brainer, right? You can have more for the same amount of money. And yeah, if it's a customer that wants automation, then there's plenty of awesome automation systems to choose from in the industry, and we're happy to supply the FlowViz digital system to support that. But if it's someone again that just wants a simple pool, like, you're going to have a better system for the same amount of money.
We should also mention that there are 4 different total horsepower models available, right?
Mhm. Yes. Yep, we've got the 1.65 horsepower for small pools. The 2.25 is kind of an in between. We have the 2.7, which is really the most universal model for residential pools, and then the 3.45 for small commercial pools and large residential pools. Those pump sizes should cover everyone's needs.
And the only one that's dual voltage, I think, looking at the spec sheet here, is the 1.65 total horsepower. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, that's correct.
Okay. People don't know this, but if you do buy, like, I'm going to throw a pump out there. Let's say you buy a Jandy VS pump with 2.7 horsepower, and those are dual voltage. But what people don't understand is that when you put it on a 115 volt breaker, that pump automatically drops down to like a 1.5 horsepower pump.
Yes.
So there's no real need to have dual voltage on anything above 1.65 in the industry.
Right. And if you were to operate a 2.7 horsepower pump on 115 volts, it would cost you an absolute fortune.
Yeah.
It's super expensive. So yeah, the 220 is the way to go on that for sure.
Yeah. So I think, again, this pump has a lot of features that plug right into the industry, the inlet and outlet matching certain pumps, the fact that you have a dual voltage model available if necessary, and then you have the 4 different total horsepower versions out there.
Mhm.
So for someone looking for a pump that, of course, Spec is a very well-known manufacturer,
Yeah.
and then your FlowViz flow meter. So this is not, just to end this here, new technology. It's just a blending of 2 technologies into one VSF
Correct.
pump.
Yeah. 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 So that's exactly what we've done. We've taken what we know from selling and supporting EcoFlow VFDs and integrating them into commercial pools, and we've brought that to the residential market with some bells and whistles, with some extra programmability, and again taking the guesswork out of setting up a pool pump for that particular pool.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited about the product, and I'll be doing a YouTube video on it as well.
Yeah.
I'll be doing a video on the features and operation of it to give the listeners a hands-on kind of feel for it besides the podcast. But I think the podcast definitely covers information that I can't put a 20-minute video together and just stand there talking about it. It'll get like 10 views,
Right.
So that's why the podcast format is really good. So you can just kind of, have information dump is what I call it.
Yep.
And so people know what they're getting. So awesome. Great talking to you, Sean. And thanks for spending the time talking about the Nautis VSF pump.
Likewise, really appreciate it, David.
Again, to learn more about the Nautis VSF pump, go to h2flow.net and it'll be on their site. You can also hear more podcasts by going to swimmingpoollearning.com. On the banner, click on the podcast icon. There'll be a drop-down menu with over 1,900 podcasts there for you as well. And if you're interested in my coaching program, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week, and God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.